What in the absolute world is going on with Jesus Luzardo, and how has he fallen off this bad? I don't even know, but we'll try and figure it out on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio for the past 5 years and change. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're checking us out in podcast form. We're available wherever you get your podcast. We're also available on YouTube, and if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. It's free, it's easy, and it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It also really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. So if you enjoy the content, you want to keep up with it, please hit that subscribe button. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go ahead and check out our friends over at FanDuel. And I guess the thing you should be doing on FanDuel is bet against Jesus Luzardo starts. I don't even know what's happened. The Phillies lose 9-1 yesterday. They get absolutely torched by the Toronto Blue Jays. Luzardo gives up 8 2 1/3. Jesus Luzardo has given up 20 runs in his last 5 1/3 innings. Unbelievable fall off. We're going to try and figure out what in the world is wrong with him. We're also going to talk in the second segment about if it's panic button for the team overall, and we'll take a look forward to tonight's start of the series in Pittsburgh against the Pirates. Spot start, bullpen game, not ideal. Things are not ideal for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. I'm pressed because this team has lost, 5 of their last 6, and they're just completely floundering right now at the plate. Jesus Luzardo is not usable on the mound. They're getting shredded. These are the dark days for the Philadelphia Phillies. When they were beating the Rockies and the Pirates and the Athletics and on that run that they were on, I told you these days were coming. And it happens to every team. That's why you enjoy, even if you're playing bad teams, the good times, because bad times happen. There are stretches like this for every baseball team in Major League Baseball across the course of 162 games. But we'll talk about Lazardo first because he's the most concerning thing about yesterday's game. Like, I don't even come after me with, the offense. I don't care about the offense right now. We have a pitcher that was a Cy Young candidate through like 11 or 12 starts and has just given up the most runs through 5 innings, through a 5-inning stretch in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies. It's impossible. Taijuan Walker last year was not this bad. Aaron Nola earlier this year was not this bad. And Jesus Luzardo, the drop of a hat just turned into a pumpkin. I don't know. Is it a Cinderella thing? Or is this something else? Is this something fixable? That's what we have to figure out with Jesus Luzardo because he's been terrible. Now, he tried the cornrows. He switched up the hairstyle. It didn't work. So don't tell him, like, shave your head like Bryce or like Nick Sirianni from the Eagles. No, it's just hairstyle ain't going to fix this one. There's something different going on with Lazardo. I don't think it's an injury because the velocity didn't drop, right? He's still pumping 97, 98. So it seems like the arm is fine. That also makes me believe, because a lot of people I've been hearing have been pointing out, well, he's already over the amount of innings he threw last year, this season. And okay, yeah, sure, you can say that. Last season he was hurt, though. And part of that could cause concern. He had some medical issues and a deal with the Cubs that fell through, which is why the Phillies were able to acquire him. So you could worry about him being injured and wear and tear and stuff like that. But if there was some sort of injury, the velocity would be down. The velocity is not down, guys. He's still throwing hard. Like, remember when Nola made his first couple starts of the year and we're like, is he really throwing 91, 92 right now? Lazardo's not that. He's throwing hard. It reminds me of, funny enough, and I hate to compare him to this guy because I know a lot of people in the fan base don't love this guy, but Jordan Romano, when he had that game against the Marlins where he just got torched and gave up like 8 in the 9th inning, he was throwing hard and he was just like, it's almost like they knew it was coming. Weird, because that's what Jesus Luzardo said following yesterday's start against the Blue Jays. It's almost like they knew what was coming. And he had that sentiment against the Milwaukee Brewers when he gave up 12 or 11 or whatever he gave up in that game. You lose count after, I guess it would have been 12 to make 20, 12 on 8. But here's the hope, right? The hope with Jesus Luzardo. Option one, that is the best case scenario for the Philadelphia Phillies, is he is tipping his pitches somehow, whether it's posture on the mound, whether it's hand movement in the glove, whether it's weird like release point or some hitch he's got, something subconscious that he's doing that other teams are picking up on. That is option one, because that's simple. Let's say that Jesus Luzardo holds his glove, if you're watching on YouTube, like under his chin when he's throwing a fastball. I know that's not where he holds it, but still under his chin when he's throwing a fastball. And then it's more like chest height when he's throwing a breaking ball. It's a minute difference that teams are going to pick up on, but that's an easy fix. Hold your hands higher for both, or hold your hands lower for both. Like, that doesn't take an injured list stint. That doesn't take a rehab stint. That doesn't take changing a bunch of things. One subtle change, if they figure out if he's tipping pitches, can solve this whole thing. That's what I'm hoping for. To me, also, it seems the most likely, because I already told you, I'm personally ruling out that he's burned out and also ruling out that he's injured based on velocity alone. He's throwing hard still. Normally you see that drop. It's a guess, but it's an educated guess. So if it's not that and it's not tipping pitches, well, what does that leave? And I guess that would leave some type of mechanical hitch or issue or something that he just, I don't know, has just completely lost it. I've seen some people as well. I want to rule this out. Oh, Rob Thompson ruined him because he ruined his confidence, leaving him in the game against the Brewers to give up 12 runs. And especially in a season where his numbers look so good and he was a Cy Young candidate early on, that kills a pitcher's chances to compete for end of the season awards. And he's ticked off about that. I understand the thought process. I really do. I do think it's crazy. Like, I don't think that Jesus Luzardo is pissed off at Rob Thompson because he left him out there against the Brewers. Remember, Rob Thompson got tossed in the middle of that Jesus Luzardo start. When we talked to Jason Stark on the radio show that I do on Wednesday, we asked him about that. And he was like, yeah, like, I don't really think, like, can't put that on Thompson, even though it did seem like there was some miscommunication there as far as what they wanted to do with Lazardo. He said it's a very real possibility that Mike Calitri, who is their bench coach, and Rob Thompson were kind of like jumbled up as Topper got ejected. And that's why they left Lazardo in that game, because they were trying to figure some stuff out. It was just chaos in the dugout. That's a very real possibility, according to me, according to a Hall of Fame baseball writer, according to other people who I've talked to about that game. So I don't think it's a crisis of confidence. I think he's just like, I really do. The only logical explanation to me is that he's tipping his pitches. Nothing else makes sense, right? Nothing else has any indication of it would happen. And that's an easy fix. So I guess you cross your fingers and hope that's how you fix it. But I don't know. Do you skip a start for Jesus Luzardo? You can't really do that because you don't really have other options to throw in the rotation right now, unless you want to use Taijuan Walker, which you could. Taijuan Walker threw in relief of Lazardo yesterday. He did not look great, but he could be there in like a backup type of role where it's just like, okay, we're going to throw Walker as a piggyback on Lazardo's starts until either Lazardo figures it out or we have to go with Walker in the rotation. Like, I don't know. This is a tough spot for the Phillies to be, but I have never in my life seen a fall off of a pitcher the way that Jesus Luzardo has done this. And you've never seen it in the Phillies history, how quickly this has turned around. Like, he went from Cy Young candidate to can't pitch at the major league level in the blink of an eye. And I don't know how that happens. And that, because it's so weird, it's going to scare a lot of people. Let's look at the rational part of this. So the Phillies rotation, let's say Jesus Luzardo just disappears off the face of the planet, like he never existed. Well, you still have Wheeler, you still have Sanchez, you still have Suarez, you still have Abel. You could throw Taijuan Walker if you needed to. Noel's going to come back at some point. Andrew Painter's going to come up at some point. You have some plus arms still in the Phillies rotation. But as good as your depth options are, Painter's not ready now. Nola's not ready now. Walker's trying to stabilize the bullpen. So you don't really have an easy way to make that switch. And also, it's not good losing a guy that you thought you could count on as a top end of the rotation arm. Things change quickly in baseball. And unfortunately for the Phillies, they slid the wrong way in this series with the Blue Jays. And obviously, losing the series to the Blue Jays, not good. Dropping back-to-back series in 5 of 6 games, not good. Like, you don't feel good about anything that you saw from the Phillies up in Toronto outside of the offense in game 1. But even that doesn't feel like it's comforting with the Lazardo thing. So I get people are freaked out over this. I'm a little freaked out over it. The Phillies have a Jesus Luzardo problem, and I do not see an easy solution unless it's tipping the pitches. And if they determine, no, man, he's not showing anything, we can't pick up on anything he's doing that would give his pitches away, where in the world do you go from there? I wouldn't skip a start for him. I would have him make his next start. I would have him go out there, try and have the bullpen ready just in case. But I don't know. You're going to work on that between now and his next start. And Lazardo said nobody's working as hard as me on trying to figure out if I'm tipping pitches or what's going on. So at this point, cross your fingers and hope that he'll be able to figure it out, because the Phillies could use him. He's a very important part of this rotation. But again, over the course of the season, they'll be able to find ways to rectify this. Just right now, it's kind of tricky. And the Phillies need to get off this slide that they've been on ASAP. And Lazardo needs to be part of that for them to build back momentum. So we'll see if he's capable of doing that. But he's a problem for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. And anyone who's worried about him, you absolutely should be. Now, if you're worried about the team, that may be a different story. We're going to talk bigger picture. Is it panic button time for the Phillies? I'm hitting the panic button on Jesus Luzardo. But for the team, I'm not quite sure I'm there yet. We'll talk about that coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about some coffee, though, because let's be real. Coffee isn't just a drink. It's a ritual, a lifeline, the thing that gets you from half asleep to fully functioning. And if it's that essential, well, why would you settle for anything less than amazing? And that's where Trade Coffee comes in. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the U.S., delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Whether you're a cold brew fan or maybe you're a pour-over purist, they got a roast that you're going to love. They have the special quiz that you can take. It only takes like a minute. And the first bag they send you is based on how you answer that quiz. They get it spot on every single time. And they make sure the coffee's always fresh, smells amazing. And here's the only downside. It's going to ruin grocery store coffee for you, because you're never going to want to buy from anywhere other than Trade Coffee. They're the absolute best. Their delivery service is great. Their product is always perfect and exactly what you're looking for. And they know you well, right? They're like your own little coffee angel sitting there on your shoulder that just says, hey, you're going to like this. Try it. Even better, right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customers 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. That's drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb for 50% off your 1-month trial. Again, drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. Experience Trade Coffee. Trust me, you're going to want to. So is it time to hit the panic button on the Philadelphia Phillies overall? I told you, I'm hitting the panic button on Jesus Luzardo. So anyone who's like, well, Connor never says anything negative about the team, he's obviously going to say there's nothing to worry about with the Phillies. Guys, I'm very worried about Lazardo, and I'm a little worried about the team. But I'm not hitting the panic button yet. All right? Their record is still good. They have a top 5 or 6 record in baseball. They're in fine shape when it comes to record, but they're skidding right now. And there are some guys that are struggling. Bryson Stott has fallen off the face of the earth offensively. Max Kepler has fallen off the face of the earth offensively. Nick Castellanos has not really been showing too much power, even though he did go yard in the series against the Blue Jays in Toronto. Bryce Harper's been quiet since he came back from getting hit in the elbow. Kyle Schwarber has seemed to cool off a little bit, even though it's June, which is surprising, but it is what it is. Maybe he'll heat up as the month continues. But the offense is slowing down. The pitching staff is becoming shaky, with guys having some blow-up starts, specifically Lazardo, but then Nola previously going out and Wheeler being a little bit shaky at points, and he's going to be fine. Wheeler is. The other two I can't speak for, but some people are hitting the panic button on the Philadelphia Phillies. I had a guy tweeting me yesterday saying, oh, well, when does Kevin Long get fired? Because this Phillies offense is not great. The Phillies have scored the 7th most runs in baseball. All right? Their hitting coach is not getting fired. Their offense is not terrible. Their team does not stink. Let's just get that out there. It is June 6th. It is not time for the panic button. Remember, there was a team just a couple years back, how quickly we forget, that was terrible to this point of the season. Just flat out bad. Manager gets fired. And the next thing you know, that team is playing in the World Series. That's the 2022 Phillies. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but I'm saying where the Phillies are now compared to where they were that season with less talent, it's night and day. They're a much, much better team. So yeah, they can still make it. They can still make things happen. You still got the trade deadline ahead. Holes are going to be filled. I promise you. They're going to make moves. Now, will they be the right moves? I can't promise you that. That's up to Dave Dombrowski. And a lot of people do not have faith in Dave Dombrowski right now because of what they perceive to be lack of moves being made. Maybe that's fair. Maybe it's not. But he's going to make moves at the deadline. We'll see how aggressive they are. That's a conversation for later on in the season. But where the Phillies are right now, with over a month and a half to that deadline, they're just fine. All right. There are a couple of concerning trends. We already talked about the starting rotation getting thinner. That's a problem. It does happen over the course of 162. Ebbs and flows, right? So guys struggle a little bit. Maybe they get some time off. Then they work their way back in. They feel fresh. And the next thing you know, they're back to themselves. Maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. But we don't know that in the moment. Guys struggling at the dish. That's a little concerning. I don't know how they come out of it, but we know that this Phillies offense can be streaky. So we'll see if guys like Stott and Kepler can pull their way out of these holes that they're in right now. I don't know. They face 3 righties in Toronto, so it's not like they're facing tough lefties and they've had to face tough lefties because guys on the bench are hurt. Like, no, they're not hitting right now. And I know there are people considering lineup change, moving Schwarber back up to leadoff because Stott has been struggling at leadoff. I'm not ready for that yet, even though I told you I was nervous about Stott at leadoff. And then I went back on that because he looked really, really good. And now I'm kind of back on the side that I was. Yeah, I'm big time flip-flopping on Bryson Stott as the leadoff hitter, but I'm not making a change quite yet. I'm not there to make these dramatic, move Schwarber out of the cleanup spot because I think Bryce likes him batting behind him. And Bryce even said after game 1 of this series where he went yard in his return to play, keep Schwarber in the cleanup spot. That's what Bryce wants. That's what Bryce should get, honestly, because that's the part of your lineup that's going to make hay, the top 4 guys. So you look at that and you say, all right, well, they could kind of tinker with the lineup a little bit, but Connor, you don't want to see major changes. And the rotation, you can't do too much to switch things around right now. And the bullpen, you can't really make additions to the bullpen right now because it's too early and you don't really have the horses in the minor leagues to add to the pen to say these are guys that we can throw at the major league level in relief. So what do? And you know what you do is you tighten up your belt, tuck in your shirt, and you go to work. All right? That's it. You stay the course. That's what the Phillies have to do right now. That's what the fan base has to do right now. If you're hitting the panic button on the Phillies, it's far too early. We've seen stretches like this from this team before. Now, the question is this a 2-week stretch of just not playing your best baseball? Or is this leading into months and months of average baseball like we saw back half of last year post-London from this team? I'm not ready to just jump to the worst case scenario. And worst case scenario would be the London stretch from last year or the post-London stretch from last year. I'm not there yet with this team. Their starting pitching is in a better spot. I think their offense is going to be just fine, like I do. I really like what Turner, Schwarber, Harper give you in the middle of the lineup. And I think you'll have enough to figure it out with other guys. And I also think because of the contract situation, you're going to see Dave Dombrowski be more aggressive at the trade deadline. Like I think he's got to be. If not, might lose his job, to be honest with you. I'm not there yet. Don't go, oh, Connor's calling for Dave Dombrowski's job. No, not quite there yet. But if he's like minimally active at the trade deadline, yeah, You better believe we're going to be calling for it. You better believe we're going to be saying this dude did not go all in enough in a major year for the Philadelphia Phillies. Like, they're going to be one of the more all-in teams in baseball. Not the Dodgers, no. Maybe the Cubs. The Cubs might have that because they may see this as their one chance. Maybe the Tigers, who've had a really good year, they go like all in because they're like, hey, we're one of the better teams in baseball and we don't get this opportunity very often. Like, I don't know. But the Phillies are going to be one of the more all-in teams in baseball, or at least they should be. And you got to remember, like, the roster now is not the roster for the postseason. So stay the course, toughen up a little bit, deal with your team not being in a good stretch. Do not hit the panic button. Do not tell me this team stinks. That's jumping the gun. That's short-sighted. Look at the names. Look at the batting, like the baseball card, back of the baseball card, the statistics and everything, and just have a little bit of faith in your team for me for a little bit. All right? They play the Pirates this weekend. Maybe that's a good jumping off point. Maybe that's a good, like, settling down. If there's a team in baseball besides the Rockies that can help you settle back into playing good baseball, it's probably the Pittsburgh Pirates. The only problem is, as we prepare for Game 1 later on tonight in Pittsburgh across the Keystone State, they're not putting their best foot forward, the Phillies are. We'll talk about why, how, and what they're doing with the starting situation in tonight's game as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about FanDuel, though. The NBA playoffs, they're in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, and boy, was last night no different. Tyrese Haliburton with another clutch game-winning shot for the Indiana Pacers, a major upset. They were double-digit dogs at a point ahead of the game, and they win it outright in Game 1. I hit a bet on FanDuel last night. I took the under. You know why I took the under? Because both these teams, young teams, haven't really been at this level before playing for the NBA Finals. So I thought there might be some nerves, and there's some good defense in this series. Keep an eye on that as the series continues, but also keep an eye on Oklahoma City to bounce back. See, it's easy. FanDuel makes it easy as well to stay in the game before tip-off and live. They got player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, all of that stuff. So fans like you have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up because you can head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. How great is that? Then you can use that to continue to bet on the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, a whole bunch of stuff going on. Mid-season baseball, a lot of great stuff. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Go ahead and check them out at FanDuel.com. All right. If you're looking for tonight as like this bounce back game for the Philadelphia Phillies, maybe hold your horses on that one because the Phillies, I'm going to say this again, one more time. Stop having children mid-season. It happens so often for this darn Phillies team. And, like, it's tongue-in-cheek, but it keeps annoying me. I'm sorry. I know you're entitled to your family life. I know professional athlete doesn't make you not a human being. But, my goodness, Zach Wheeler is still with his wife, welcoming the birth of their new child. Congratulations again to the Wheeler family. Happy for you. Wishing you health. Absolutely. Like the stop having kids in baseball season. I would like that to happen, but I'm not like mad at them for it. It's whatever. But I am mad at the situation that it creates because tonight, with Zach Wheeler still away from the team, you know who's getting the start against the Pittsburgh Pirates in a big spot with the Phillies looking to bounce back? Yeah, it's Joe Ross. Yeah, Joe Ross is getting his first start of the year for the Philadelphia Phillies. The swingman with a 4.34 ERA that has not started a game yet and has only thrown 29 innings pitched. The Phillies are looking to hopefully get a couple of innings out of Joe Ross. Now, just one of those blasts from the past games. Like, you got Joe Ross, but you know who's on the mound for the Pittsburgh Pirates? Bailey Falter is throwing for the Pirates in tonight's game. Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard in quite some time. So not exactly Zach Wheeler versus Chris Sale that we saw a couple weeks ago in the Phils-Braves series. No Cy Young matchup here in this one. The Phils going with a bullpen game. Did not have an off day. Traveling down from Toronto. It's a mess of a situation. It'd be nice to have Wheeler going, but it's hard to believe the Phillies are going to get through today's game without burning a lot of the bullpen. And then you're going to have to see what you can do in later games in this series. Tomorrow you have Ranger Suarez going against Andrew Heaney. And maybe that's an opportunity for Ranger to get 7 out of the way and save the bullpen a little bit. Sanchez throws on Sunday against this Skeens guy, who I heard is pretty good and did pretty well against the Phillies last time, even though the Phillies did win that game. So if you lose tonight, well, you're going to have to beat Skeens to win the series, and the Phillies showed that they're not very capable of scoring runs off him. Maybe, it would be just so Phillies is if they go out and they lose tonight, and like the offense is quiet and Joe Ross gets shelled. And then they like kind of scrape together a win for Ranger Suarez in a close game. And then they go out and they score like 7 or 8 off ball Skeens. That would be just so how this is going right now with the unpredictability of how the Phillies are playing baseball. But the ideal way to do it is the offense needs to wake up and carry them tonight because Joe Ross ain't going to do it. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying Joe Ross is going to get shelled. But I'm saying I don't feel confident about winning a game where he is your starting pitcher unless the offense scores 6+. And maybe they can do that. They scored 8 in the first game of the series in Toronto. Then they went quiet, scored 1 each of the final 2 games. But it's just 2 games, and it doesn't mean the offense stinks, at least to me. Some people out there will believe that. I'm not quite in that frame of mind quite yet. But I look at this series against Pittsburgh and I say it would be an ideal time for you to get your momentum going in the right direction. But with the pitching situation, I don't know if that's feasible. I don't expect them to win tonight with Joe Ross on the mound. Bailey Falter is not that great of a pitcher, but he's better than Joe Ross, and he has been starting for the Pittsburgh Pirates this year. I believe. Let me just double check and see how many starts Bailey Falter has made this year. He's got 66 innings pitched. So yeah, he's been starting for that team. And the 3.14 ERA for Bailey Falter is not bad. He's not a huge strikeout guy. We know this. 41 strikeouts in 66 innings. So he's been just getting a lot of soft contact. He comes from that same mold as Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez, clearly with not as good stuff, but like you look at it and you say, okay, soft contact from the lefty that just keeps balls on the ground is exactly what Bailey Falter tries to do. And the Phillies will have to try and create some pop against their former teammate. We will see if they're capable of doing so. But I don't know, man. It's not ideal. Like, this would be a spot where you'd love to have Zach Wheeler throwing and getting everything settled and be your stopper. But you've missed 2 Wheeler starts. And funny enough, you actually won the Wheeler start that would have been in Toronto, which was game 1. So it's not like he specifically cost you. But if he had thrown and then Sanchez had thrown game 2, maybe. Even though the Phillies only scored 1 in that game and Abel threw well. Like, I don't know. I don't think Wheeler missing time is a huge reason why the Phillies are on this slide right now, but it would sure as heck be nice to have him back, and you're not going to have him this weekend. So one time through the rotation without Zach Wheeler, or I guess technically 2 starts missed for him as they'll reset their rotation in Pittsburgh, and Wheeler will rejoin the team when they come back home for their next series against the Chicago Cubs. It starts on Monday, but I don't love this. You played Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Toronto. Now you're going to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Pittsburgh, including a bullpen game. And by the way, Lazardo only went 2 1/3 innings yesterday. Then you're going to play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against a really good Cubs team. This bullpen's going to be taxed. Their next off day is until Thursday. So it could get worse before it gets better for the Philadelphia Phillies, folks. I expect them to win 2 of 3 over the Pirates because they're just still the superior team. But it's going to be a little sketchy at points, and it may not look as pretty as it did when the Phillies played the Pirates at Citizens Bank Park. And this is part of the season where, again, you just got to bite the bullet, grit your teeth, bear through this one. I can use as many different little axioms as you want me to, but the fact of the matter is the Phillies aren't playing good baseball right now. They won't play this way forever. They're going to come out of it. But right now it's kind of the keep the faith time. And that's all we can do with how the Philadelphia Phillies are currently playing, pitching, their injury situation, their rotation situation. They're still going to be fine, I think, long term. But right now it just doesn't feel very good. And that's the reality of some struggles in the middle of the summer, these dog days of summer or late days of spring. I don't know. We counted this summer. It's post-Memorial Day. This can happen, and we'll see if the team can bounce back against the Pittsburgh Pirates. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Hopefully we're having a much more fun show on Monday. I'd love to be talking about a sweep, but a 2 out of 3 series win would be totally fine as well. We'll also take a look at the rotation and how it looks when everything's all said and done in this series in Pittsburgh, and if the offense wakes up a little bit. But a big weekend for the Phils to kind of right the ship, and we'll see if they're capable. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for joining us here on Locked On Phillies. And please make sure you're rating, reviewing, hitting that subscribe button on the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you on Monday on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.